Okay, okay. So just so that everybody kind of knows, this is the UMBC Game Dev Club here, the Fall 2020. My name is Ryan Griffin, and I was a UMBC alum, graduated in 2011. So who am I? I'm Ryan Griffin. I work at Oxide Games. I do mostly outsource stuff, but I'm a capable 3D artist, kind of a generalist slash like jack of all trades. I used to be a professor over at Howard Community College. I was a graphic designer at a toy and candy company, animator, motion graphics, video editing. I went into some more detail about this actually in a previous video back in spring 2020. If you're curious about that, go ahead and check that out through the YouTube link here. I also did a presentation on trim sheets as well, which is how to create a lot of assets for like buildings or yeah, it's a very useful technique to rapidly create buildings. Is the main use for it. It's used for like a few other things too. So, like this is my portfolio. This is my portfolio here, which you guys can take a look at your leisure. Um, so, how did I kind of go from graduating to where I am now, right? Uh, Most of the time, it kind of looks like it's a straight line, right? But a lot of times, there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of challenges which happen along the way. This is actually more of what it kind of looks like. When you first start out, like you're learning a lot, and it's like, oh, like it's pretty easy to like do a couple things, and then it's like, oh, wait, this is a lot more complicated than I initially thought. And then like you slowly start to learn more and more about the subject until like you get proficient at it. But there's like a point where it's like I have no idea what I'm doing, and there's so many good people out there, and it's challenging. And that's kind of why like you need to be able to learn from people who are going to give you good advice, as well as you need to be able to help bring yourself along to continue to work hard and to figure out what your goal is. Like that should be a fairly good a good suggestion. Um, this guy actually has like a pretty good article on the subject actually, and he does a lot of really good character art. So in short form, basically you kind of begin when you're a little like naive with what it is, and then you get to some craziness within your college years, and then maybe a little bit afterwards. But then like eventually like you can make it and you get your first job basically. um, and yeah, there's always like that one person like in the class that's like really good, or they're like they're naturally gifted, or they work harder. But basically with that, like within your classes, like you have a set number of people, right? But you also have to look outside of that, right? What are like some of the other communities out there? Because like there's a lot of other schools, and there's a lot of other communities out there that you have to um, look at and be like, hey, like, am I learning the same kind of stuff? Like, is there stuff that I can learn on my own? Because we have the internet, right? There's so much information out there. Like back when I was first learning, there was very few really good tutorials. Like I actually have like one of the like DVDs here, which like was a E3D DVD, which kind of dates me a little bit. But yeah, there's no like wrong point like on your journey to becoming a better game dev. Like it's more about just putting like your best foot forward, and becoming the best version of yourself, staying humble, and keep working towards your goals. Like never give up basically. Like for me, like it took me years. Like I started when I was in high school, back in like 2006, and like I didn't really get in until like within like a couple years ago. But like it's totally doable. It's more a matter of I had to kind of go a long route, right? but like everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is going to be unique to what your goal is. And that's one thing that I really want all of you to kind of think about is like, what is your goal? Like, what is the thing that you really want to do? And try to be very specific with it, because the more specific you can make it, the better chance you will actually get there faster. Okay, yeah. For me, I basically had to like outgrind like everybody as far as like because like it my journey was very strange, because after college, like I ended up doing like 3 different internships, and like nobody wanted to hire me full time, and it was kind of a weird time. But yeah, so like this thing, right? Um, how long did this take me? Um, for me, it only took me about 3 hours to make, right? But the thing about it is that it took me like years to be able to actually get good enough to make this in 3 hours. And so you didn't necessarily see like all of the like failing practice, finding a mentor, getting critiqued, taking online classes, like it's like practicing every day for like a couple of years to like make this thing in 3 hours. But that's the thing, is that when you get like good enough to be able to make anything, like it's literally like, oh, that that thing looks cool, I want to make it. And so I just like can like go and make it. But that's the thing, is like when you like have practiced enough stuff, you have the general workflow of like how to go from program to program to get the best out of each program, right? Like, and so each one is going to be a little different. So uh like a couple of you have probably heard of like Fortnite, right? Has anybody like actually looked at how Fortnite was developed? Like being able to actually look at, hey, like there is a development of the art of Fortnite. Has anybody actually watched this off the GDC Vault? Right? There are plenty of resources out there on how like certain games were developed. And this is a treasure trove of information as far as like how they actually develop their style, like what are some of the rules, like what are what are the things that make Fortnite Fortnite. There's a lot of other games out there like Battle Rights, Splatoon, Pokemon, Goose Game. Like there's a lot of different things out there. Um, and really like with quote unquote stylized art, there's a lot of different kinds of like stylized art, and it really kind of depends on what is the specific style which you're kind of going for. What are the rules that make like stylized like the style that you want, right? So it's good to be able to kind of figure that out ahead of time. I also made a playlist on like different kinds of stylized art, which you can check out there. Another cool um, uh, another good podcast is actually this one, which is breaking down how to do like dioramas, which are like really good for different environment artists, or like even with character artists. Like you could like pose your character on top of a pedestal and have like a small like diorama, which like makes the character lived in with the environment. So with this, like I'm gonna like actually like break down the different uh, steps that I took to be able to create the final asset, which is here, right? And so this is a low poly um, uh, AAA PBR like textured asset. This is pretty high poly, but like you could actually go with like less than this if you wanted. But this is like for like a first person like stylized game. But yeah, so with this, I kind of started out with a program called PureRef, which is a free mood board program that will allow you to actually have your concept over top of your screen. So if I load this here, I can load my book reference. And so this was my concept art. So with this concept here, I pretty much was trying to figure out like, hey, like what kind of stylized asset do I want, right? But I couldn't necessarily like waste my time. Like I couldn't like dilly-dally with like trying to do like too much at once. So trying to plan out your time is going to be very beneficial. Like you don't want to do everything at the last minute. Like it's best to try to do like a little bit at a time. So one thing that's kind of a mindset change, like once you get like a little bit more experienced, is that you want to be able to do like a little bit every day. And one thing that I do is like I try to like have difficult challenges for myself so that I can get a little better each time, right? And I'm not necessarily doing like simple things. Like I'm doing stuff which will force me to grow as an artist. And that's something that is kind of difficult at first, but that's why you want to do it. Like it is okay to do like simple things at first. It's more a matter of like over time you want to do more and more challenging things. So yeah, Pinterest, or sorry, not not a Pinterest, PureRef. So yeah, like I went and tried to find, hey, like what is the concept that I kind of want to go with? What is like going to be like my like Bible for like what I can and can't do with this project? So I did a bunch of like ref gathering as far as like, hey, like let's look at a bunch of books, let's figure out which one I like, and then I decided on this one, right? Why did I choose this one? I chose this one because if you look on the page here, it sticks out. It pops, it has the color, it has the style which I wanted, and it seemed like a book is pretty simple. It's a box basically, right? It's more a matter of how can you break that box? How can you make it unique? How can you make it stand out? So that's why I wanted to pick one that popped off the page. And then yeah, I basically started to model, right? I wanted to make sure that I had a scale reference, and so I took the Unreal Engine mannequin and used that as my scale ref to be able to create my low poly. And from this, I basically kind of made the block out to be very similar to my reference. I ended up choosing this one, which is the like leafy one, that had like a little bit more like organic and it had more material separation. If you see on this, like it has like kind of a blue wash across all of it, and so like I wanted to get something that was a little bit more colorful, therefore I chose this one. And I had to choose like between the open book and the closed book, and I chose the closed book because it was going to be faster to make, because I wanted it to be a simpler tutorial versus it having this open book, because I wanted it to be within a reasonable amount of time. So I'm gonna make that a little smaller. So with this prop here, essentially what I did was, if you look at what's happening with it, it's basically half like this. And so I only need to model half of it, but I need to have enough like different either like sides or having enough geometry to match the silhouette of this concept, right? You have to match the silhouette. That's the most important thing for a low poly. And then from there, I basically just made a symmetry modifier and put it on the correct axis, and like so. And from here, I like this is basically like my block out. From here, I took this and brought it into a program called Zbrush. Zbrush is a program that you use for doing a little bit of organic sculpting, which is very different than other kinds of modeling programs. It's used a lot within character development or doing specific kinds of uh, sorry, specific kinds of details. And so like I basically did like a damage pass across all of it, and I added more details with it. So let me pull up the final the final sculpt for that. So this is the final sculpt. I basically tried to match the concept here by having the organic like root parts and these like leafy sections, and creating some like cuts and scrapes on it, getting like a little bit of weathering but not too much, making it subtle, but basically trying to match the concept as close as possible with it. And so from here I went and brought it back into 3ds Max, and I have both my high poly and my low poly here. So why do we do this? We do this because you have a the high poly sculpt has like thousands of little polygons in it, right? This is not necessarily efficient for a game engine. And so we have to take the high poly information and bake it down onto a low poly, right? With this, it saves efficiency on the game engine. It reuses maps to be able to recall baked in data from here. And so it's basically the best of both worlds. It's both efficient and it looks good. But with that, we have to use a UV unwrap, which is kind of a little bit of a challenge for some people. Basically, it's being able to take uh, uh, a jumbled mess, basically from the UVs, and flatten it out onto a simple 0 to 1 space with the texture. A couple other alternatives to ZBrush is Blender. Blender has been getting a lot better in terms of its sculpting program, and there's actually a great tutorial as well with that. Also, 3D Coat is another alternative. Mudbox is like an older one. Don't really use Mudbox too much anymore, but you can also get ZBrush Core or get a trial of ZBrush. ZBrush is kind of like the industry standard for it, but it's also kind of specialized, but it's great for character artists. Like most character artists that I know use ZBrush. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. So UV unwrapping. Has anybody like taken like a piece of like candy, right, and like unwrapped it and then made it flat? That's essentially what UV mapping is. And the box example is like the basics for that. But also make sure to get all of your UV islands, otherwise you might miss something and have to repack it again. So from there, we use, or I use a program called here we go, Marmoset Toolbag. It's used for baking and presentation. You can do baking in Substance Painter, but I prefer to do it in Marmoset Toolbag because I can do uh, more error fixing within Marmoset Toolbag. It's also very good at rendering as well. Um, so from there, I basically go and bake all of these little maps, right? Which are taking all of the high poly information from my high poly and baking it onto my low poly. And basically I get a bunch of these maps which I use to import into Substance Painter. Substance Painter is a PBR, which is physically based rendering texturing program. And with that, I have a bunch of these input maps right here. The normal, world space normal, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, thickness. All those ones I basically exported from Marmoset Toolbag into Substance Painter. You can actually bake these maps in here as well, but yeah, I just prefer to use the other one. That's just personal preference. Both are completely fine. And so from here, I try to go and figure out, okay, look at my concept. What is the material separation here? So like, there's like leather, there's like metally, like gold or brass. You got this like vine, you got this like leafy scales and paper, right? So I'm trying to get the actual materials to match my concept. And so I break it down like per material. And uh, with this, what I'm doing here, like let's just say I'm like texturing this like from nothing, right? What I am gonna do is I'm basically going to fill it with a color, and let's just say I'm gonna make this like blue, like the other one, right? So I would go and let's put it up here. We can just sample this like that, and then I have this this fill layer which fills the entire thing with a certain color, right? And then I can create a mask, and I'll go and like fill in a certain section, right? And let's just say let's make the eye section here. So I could go and like paint like directly on this model, right? But like what if it like gets like off there for some reason? There's actually like several ways to get your selection. So if we go into like the 2D view, we can see that, oh, this is where my actual like selection was, and so I can select all of that like that. And so it's a lot easier to actually like select things that way. And from there, like I would go and do different kinds of materials to eventually get this here. And I put like a gradient across all of it. So if I turn everything off, I basically have a gradient from the top, or sorry, from the bottom to the top, basically making the bottom darker than the top. It kind of gives it like this little like pop essentially. And I also have like kind of like a metally look for the gold. I could actually go and turn this metallic on like that as well, which gives it a different effect and makes it like more shiny across different areas. So like once I have all of this kind of the way that I want it, I basically go and export my textures, right? And from there, I would then bring it back into Marmoset Toolbag and then I can do like some more of like my render settings. I can have like my uh, wireframe. I can input in my different textures, right, that I exported, and I just bring them into the material slot here and apply that, and I can use like a different like lighting scenario. Let's say I want to do let's find a different one that I like. Let's choose this one, and I can then take, there it is, my light, and I can have like my dominant light source, and I can set that up, and I can turn like up the brightness. I can change the skylight brightness and value. Basically set up the lights, and then set up my different cameras from different positions, and then render out my different renders here. Okay, gone over that. And so these are the final results. Basically, I would go and export my different capture settings. So you can do different kinds of formats. I normally do a EXR format, which is a RAW format. So I don't know if any of you know about photography, but there is different kinds of settings which you can do for the file, and EXR is a RAW format, which normally when you're shooting with a camera you want to do RAW, because that gives you more histogram range essentially. And I would go into Photoshop, and I would use the raw settings for that, and then do some export. I would put my name on it and linking to my ArtStation, do some vignetting, doing some depth of field, like different effects like that to be able to get results like this. And then from there, you basically go and post it onto ArtStation when you're done. Typically, what I would do with my ArtStation posts is I would have like the render, I would have like my name, like a description of of the object. I would have like 5 renders or so, and I would also have like a breakdown image as far as like, hey, like this is like the different maps. I would have a wireframe, I would have some close-up shots, and I would have a description. I would try to do like different tags and stuff to be able to help make the actual post be easier to find, and yeah. And then like once I post it on ArtStation, I would post it on like all of my social media, and try to get as many eyes on it as possible. And posting on to different 3D communities like ArtStation, Polycount, Discord, Dynasty, QBush, and so on, right? So like there's like a lot of like different like 3D communities out there. I don't know if you guys have thought to like look at other like 3D Discords, but like there's a lot of them out there. And it used to be that everybody was only on Polycount, and like Polycount is like 15 years old or something, which is like what I grew up on, because like Discord like wasn't even a thing back then. And the 3D communities kind of like moved around a little bit. So I would definitely check out like any of these here, to be able to like find like-minded people, right? Which is what I was saying before with like trying to network with other 3D artists, right? Um, uh, I'm pretty sure like nobody's kind of heard of this website called The Rookies, but this is actually like a pretty good site as far as like a barometer, because like with this site, this actually is like a showcase site for they actually rank like the top like what is it, the top like 50 schools like in the country for like 3D art, and like they also showcase like the best of the best basically, and so you can kind of look at like some of their stuff and be like, okay, like maybe I can do something similar to it, or maybe I can do something better than them. Like that's that's a good thing to be able to know like what else is out there. And one of the schools that's always up there is Nomen, which like pretty sure like they've been getting like first place for like the past like 20 years or something. But yeah, like uh, obviously there's like a, a lot of different schools out there, but you have to look outside of your own school to understand what the greater like world is out there, and understand that like there's a lot of content out there. Like back when I was in school, like there was a lot harder time to get quality information. Like there's so much info off of YouTube. Like you YouTube can probably like make like your entire education worth it, which like you can be the actual decider on like whether that's worth it or not. But quality is king. Always be consistent. Practice. Acquire hireable skills. Um, Back to what I was saying about getting like a very specific goal, right? Like the more specific, the better. Um, so like let's just say, oh, I want to work in games, right? Like that's not specific enough. You have to be more specific. Be like, I want to work as an environment artist at Naughty Dog, right? That is much more specific because that gives you a role that you want, that gives you an art style that you want to do, and it gives you a company to be able to strive for, right? Try to find artists who work at that company, try to find their portfolios and try to make stuff like that company, right? Or like that artist. And be open to not necessarily getting your first choice, because like you're just starting. Like unless you're like the best of the best, like you're not necessarily gonna get like your first choice. Um, just keep practicing. Being able to like get better quality art is going to be your ticket to be able to get that job, to be able to get that opportunity for that job, right? So being able to actually level up and keep practicing. Try to find people who are at your level or better. Like don't be afraid to like ask for critique. Being able to go onto these 3D forums and communities to be able to say, hey, like how can I make this project better, right? That is what's going to help make you better as an artist. So um, yeah, don't necessarily procrastinate on stuff, but it's still also good to be able to have that work-life balance. Like you got to take breaks sometime, but it is also a balancing act. You have to also still keep working to become better, otherwise you'll never make it, right? So that basically goes back to the thing here, right? You got to keep getting better. Like that's the hill which you have to get to before you actually like can get in, basically. So yeah, let's last thing, like just having a good mindset to be able to actually like get towards your goal, right? No matter what anybody else says, you can do it. It's more a matter of you gotta be able to put in the work and like have quality art, because when you have quality art, people will take you seriously. And being able to work on that, like nobody is going to be great right off the bat. That takes time, and so it's okay to suck at it. Like I have failed a lot before like getting to where I am now. So yeah, like ideas are cheap, execution is everything. So that's basically my presentation. I'll open it up to questions. Any questions at all? Hmm. One thing that I wanted to also point out, um, on the Discord, if you go into the show and tell, I actually gave a free 5-hour tutorial on how to make this from beginning to end. So like that's going to be something that will help anybody like who wants to learn more about how I actually made it, because like that goes like in depth, like step by step on like how to actually make this, so that you all can get better quality stuff, and definitely feel free to like ask me questions on the tutorial if you have like questions on it, or if you need to like take you through it, like I can help you guys with that as well. So hello. The question is, what is my specific goal right now? My goal is to be the best that I can be for Oxide, basically. I've been at Oxide a year now. I've done probably like 2,000 assets over the course of a year. So like I stopped making portfolio stuff about a year ago. So like none of this stuff is up to date. I can't show any of it because like Oxide is working on a project that I can't talk about. But I can show you like what Oxide has done in the past. So they worked on Ashes of the Singularity, which is a RTS game. Uh, as soon as it decides to load, there it is. It's like a sci-fi RTS, kind of like StarCraft or Supreme Commander, and like do some concept art screenshots. So this is the game that Oxide previously worked on. I can't really talk about Oxide's current project. Yeah, no problem. Does anybody else have like any kind of like art questions, or like any kind of like video game questions, or yeah, sure, go ahead. Hmm. Yeah. So you're talking about like these leaves, right? Uh, mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's totally like a valid point. So like you're saying, let's see here, these ones. So like basically what I could have done is like just make these like pop a little more. Um, like more like that, I guess, maybe let's try a different color. Like having it more like this, I guess. Yeah. So with that, like I kind of wanted it to like blend, but like again, that's like a artistic choice. Like, and obviously like you can make that change pretty quickly. And in reality, it's more that I had 3 hours to do this. So like if I'd spent like a couple more like if I'd spent a little bit more time on it. Like I was like missing the like ribbon here, or the other like leaves which actually like poke out like here. I could have added those. Like there was definitely some stuff that I could have done like a little more, but I was kind of like running out of time to like make the tutorial within a reasonable amount of time. So fair point though. Like thank you for actually calling me out on that. Yep, no problem. Yeah, what's up? So this is just one of my portfolios. I have several. um, Let me just pull up my 2D tutorial, or sorry, my 2D portfolio. Like I was saying before, I used to work at a toy and candy company. So like I've made about like 300 different products over the course of 3.5 years. So like with that, like I have like a different portfolio for this. This is specifically like the best of the best of my 3D stuff. I did have an internship where I made 3D buildings basically for evacuation simulation. So basically I would take blueprints or different renders of different buildings, and I would create the outsides of them. Um, so with that, like I basically had this specifically geared towards video games. This is more for architecture. This is more for graphic design, right? I have different portfolios for different industries. And with this one, I was like, I need to make something that is relevant for video game development. So with that, I'm making tanks, I'm making uh, uh, props, environments. I specialized. I wanted to make stuff that was like hard surface, stuff that I enjoyed making, basically. Um, if you see like these things, these are substance designer materials, which are used with a PBR workflow, essentially. Doing like terrain. I might do a tutorial on like how to make terrain later, but that's with Gaia, which is a 3D terrain program. But yeah, like this portfolio was specifically to try to get my job at Oxide. And since I got hired at Oxide, I haven't really been working on my portfolio per se. I've been working at Oxide to develop my first ship title, basically. Yeah, no problem. Do we have like any like character artists or like animators or no? Hmm. So like, do you have like a certain kind of like character model, or sorry, a character like style that you like? Because like I'm pretty sure that let's just say uh, uh, Valorant, right? Like, do you like this kind of art style, or do you like a different one? Hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so something that's like hmm, okay, so like much more. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So like with this, like this is kind of like it's simple shape design, right? But it's got like the right kind of texturing on it because it's like a realistic like texture, but it's like very stylized shape, a shape language. So I would say to definitely work on like the modeling slash sculpting skills. Um, I would say to check out uh, what's his name? YouTube for um, see Blender sculpting. I forgot the name of the thing. Yeah, Flip Normals. There we go. Yeah, like Flip Normal's channel is like amazing. It's two VFX artists who became friends, and they also started to teach. It is a tremendous tutorial. Like they are very good at what they teach. So definitely check out the introductory to sculpting in Blender 2.8. You can get comparable results to ZBrush uh, with Blender. It's something that still takes time as an artist to be able to understand the anatomy of like how to make a character, but it's a lot different process. Like um, when I am hard surface modeling something, it's more like, oh, it's got to be like boxes and cylinders and triangles, right? With sculpting, like I'm very much like taking a stylus and like using a brushes to be able to organically sculpt on stuff. It's a very different process. Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like, definitely keep going with sculpting. Just being able to take like a ball, right, and make like a creature, or make a male character, or a female character, or a deer, or a monster, like, or a villain. Like, every one of those is like going to help you to become a better artist for sure. So definitely keep practicing with the sculpting, because like most character artists are much better sculptors than like hard surface artists, because they're practicing two completely different skills. Awesome. So yeah, like I said before, I put a full length tutorial for free in the show and tell section of the UMBC Game Dev Discord. So even if you didn't ask like any questions at all, that's a free tutorial for the club. You guys can use that to be able to get better. Um, if there's any more questions at all, I'll probably head out so that I can get back to work. But yeah, if there's no more questions at all, because I'm definitely like happy to like answer questions with like modeling, or if you guys want like any kind of like different tutorial for stuff, I can maybe do something in the future. Um, would that be something that the UMBC Game Dev Club would like want to do in the future, maybe? Like, just as like a feeler, like what kind of things would people want to know about? Like, what should I do a tutorial on? Okay, well, like I yeah, I actually went over that within the tutorial that I just made. So I would definitely check out that full length tutorial. It's like 5 hours worth of content. Yeah, like that like goes over in a lot more detail. Uh, yeah, yeah, that would be great. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, mhm. Yeah, great question. I would say to figure out like what are my top 5 games, right? Um, after a- ask yourself that question, and then figure out like what kind of art style do I like from those games, right? And then be like, okay, what kind of things would be good to go towards that, which would be good for that kind of company. So let's just say, oh, I want to work on Halo, right? Um, and that's like pretty specific. So like I want to make something that's sci-fi. So like with this project, I was like, oh, like I want to find a concept that's like pretty cool looking, right? And it's kind of sci-fi. And I decided on this one, and I was like, okay, I want to make it, right? And then I had to figure out, hey, how do I make it? So I would start with something small, start with something that is like simple, find a concept art for it, and then make that. Because if you think about it, in a actual game dev environment, um, a lot of the time you're not necessarily going to make something completely from scratch. You're going to have a concept art for it. So being able to actually practice with just a concept art and being able to model something that is close to the original design of something is going to be great practice. And I would probably like start with like Blender, because like Blender's very versatile, and you can there's a ton of different tutorials out there for it. So yeah, I would just practice with that. Mm. Th- Thank you all for having me. Awesome. If you have any other additional questions, or if you want to ask me about like the poll for the next tutorial, just let me know. Hmm. Thanks for having me. Yep. Have a good day.